Hello and welcome back to Living Creative with Pixie Princess. Today we are going to make Mexican cornbread, so stay tuned. Hello, I'm so glad you stayed tuned to learn how to make this cornbread. It is so delicious. We are using it as a meal in and of itself, but you can have it with a pot of beans or just whatever you like, or as a bread with your meal. This recipe was my husband's family recipe. He grew up eating this, and it was a special treat to have it when he was growing up, and he shared it with me when we got married, and it is very, very delicious. So this is the version that his family made when he was growing up. So we're going to make two versions though. We're going to make a baked version, and we're going to make fritters. So you have to fry those, and it's just a little more of an individual size serving of the cornbread, and it's crispy. But to bake it, we got to grease our pan and heat it in the oven when we preheat it. So today I'm going to use just a regular deep dish pie pan. If you have a cast iron skillet, that would be wonderful. Right now I don't have one, so that's why I'm using the pie plate, and it'll work just good. But what you do is just take a paper towel, and I recommend shortening because it's the best to coat the pan, and you want a generous portion on your paper towel, and then you're just going to smear it all the way around and on the sides of your pan or your cast iron pan. Like I said, either one is fine. Cast iron's probably a little better, but if you don't have that, you can use something similar to this. Okay, and like I said, be very generous with the shortening because you don't want it to stick, and it also gives a good texture to your cornbread. So now that I've got this greased, I'm going to take it to the oven, stick it in the oven, and then that's when I'm going to begin the preheat to 450. So you want it to preheat in the oven while the oven's preheating, because it will heat the oil up and the pan is hot when you put the batter in, and it just gives a nice texture to the outside of your cornbread. So let me go do that, and then when I get right back, we'll mix up our cornbread. Okay, the pan is in the oven. I set it to 450, so when the oven gets up to 450, the pan and the oven are ready to make this. So let's get making this cornbread. Now it's just a basic recipe, and I am not brand picky, but we do like this particular brand to make cornbread. It needs to be a self-rising cornmeal if you're not using this particular brand. And we are using the recipe that is provided on here. The only difference that we are doing is, first, we're doubling the recipe to make a double batch. You can single this, divide what I'm doing, make this regular one. And I did make this in an earlier video last year, just plain cornbread. So if you want to refer to that, the cornbread is the same. We are adding other ingredients to make it the Mexican cornbread version. So you can half the recipe, you can double it like I am. We're doubling it because we're making a pan in the oven, and we're going to make fritters. And believe me, the fritters are wonderful. It's really good. The fritters are really good with chili and soup. So is the bake, but it's just really good that way. So I always like to start with my eggs. And this calls for 1 large egg, so I need 2 large eggs. So I am going to crack my 2 eggs in here. And the reason I like to do that is because I want to make sure I'm not getting any shells in the batter. Okay, so I have that, and I'm glad I did that because I did drop shells in here. So you want to get them out now. Some people are much better at cracking eggs than I am. Sometimes I get lucky. And it is a little challenge to get them out, but believe me, it's a lot easier to get it out now than it is in your batter, and you don't want that crunchy eggshell in your batter. So let me wipe that up. And I like to beat my eggs just a little bit. So that's just me. I always start with the eggs. Or if they need to be added separately, I crack them in a separate bowl. Alright, so the eggs are ready in here. So what we need is a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, so we need about 1/2 cup. It threw me off because it said like a teaspoon of vegetable, but that's what we needed to grease the pan. Alright, so we need 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Okay, I'm going to add that to my eggs. We need 1 1/3 cup of milk for the half a batch, so I need 2 cups and 2/3. And the other difference we use buttermilk. This just recommends regular milk. There is buttermilk in the mix, but we think the buttermilk gives it a rich flavor. So always shake your buttermilk up before you use it to make sure it's all mixed. All right, so we need 2 cups. And 2/3. So just add that right in. Now, we need 2 cups of the cornmeal mix. So let me get a clean cup here. So since we need 2 for 1 batch, we need 4 cups for this batch. And I'm not using the same one because it would stick to it. So that's 1. See if I can get the clumps out here. There we go. And that's 2. Three. And 4. All right. So this is the basic. Make sure I got everything. Yes, I do. So we're just going to mix this together. And if you were just making plain old cornbread, this is where you would stop and just bake it in the oven, make fritters or whatever you were doing. But since we are making Mexican cornbread, we have some ingredients to add. So just mix it till it's all the dry ingredients are mixed. Like so, okay? So it's all mixed together now. Now it's time to add the extras. You will need a can of sweet kernel corn, that's drained. I've already done that. And you need the equivalent of 2 onions. Now if you're doing half, just about half a can, but if you like the corn, add the whole thing. So this is 1 very large onion chopped up, but it's the equivalent of about 2 cups. And you need jalapenos. Now if you're using fresh jalapenos, you would use 2 for the regular batch, 4 for the big batch, and you would chop it up. Depending on the heat that you like in your food, if you like the heat, keep the seeds in there. If not, remove the seeds from your peppers. We are using a jar, and that's perfectly fine, of the pickled sliced peppers. And we're using about half a jar, chopped up finely, into our batter. And you would use about 1/4 of that in your regular. And then I cooked a package of bacon. It's equivalent about 12 slices, and it's crumbled up, and we're going to add that. So about half a pack of bacon if you're just doing the 1. And you need about 1.5 cups of cheese for the regular batch and about 3 cups of cheese for the double batch. Now we are using sharp cheddar cheese, This is our favorite. We love it. You could use a Mexican blend. That would be fine too. But I just think the sharp cheddar adds a lot to this recipe. So without further ado, we are going to add our other ingredients. I'm going to start with the corn. This is really easy to make. The onion, the jalapenos, the bacon, and I'm going to mix this up a little bit and then add my cheese. Now, if you want to reserve a little bit of your cheese to take it out of the oven and put it on top and melt it for a little bit longer, you can do that. I'm just putting it all in now. Oh, this smells so good. So I'm going to add all of the cheese. And just make sure it's well incorporated, all the ingredients in this. Those added ingredients just make it smell so good. And of course, when I was cooking the bacon, it makes your kitchen smell good. I love bacon. Okay, just make sure it's well incorporated. There are no dry ingredients in here, and that you get a little bit of taste of all the ingredients throughout your cornbread and batter. Okay, so now I'm just waiting for my oven and my pan to heat up. So while that's heating up, I'm going to clean up around here and wait for that to heat up, and then I'll meet you back. This is also good to let it sit a little bit and rise, and then you put it in your pan, so stay tuned for that. Alright, so you want to carefully take your pan out of the oven because it's going to be very hot, and that oil inside the pan is very hot. Now, you want your batter to sizzle when it goes in. You hear that? So we're going to fill our pan up just a little bit more. You want just a little bit of room on the top to give it room to rise. Okay, so that pan is full, so I'm going to carefully put it back in the oven, and it takes about 40 minutes or so, so you want to check on it. But while it's baking, I'm going to get the frying pan out, and then we're going to make fritters out of the rest of this batter. So stay tuned. Okay, so I covered the bottom of my pan with just a little bit of oil, and it's standing a little bit, and I've got it preheated so it's hot, because you want your oil hot. Just be very careful in doing this. So you're just going to drop by the spoonfuls into your hot oil. And you're just kind of cooking them like you would pancakes. And you want to let them cook a little bit before you try to flip them. And then you can press them out once you flip them if you want to. I can fit one more in my pan here. Okay. So just watch until the edges start to brown. And you want to be able to flip it without the batter going everywhere. And I'll just use regular vegetable oil. And it looks like they're starting to brown a little bit. I'm going to let them cook just a little bit longer. To me, it's a lot easier to bake it all in the oven, but this is just a tasty treat. It's a crispy fritter. They're wonderful. They're nice to munch on. Just, have one for a snack. But yeah, these go really great with chili or a vegetable soup or something like that. So if you want to take your time and do this, you can do that. It's getting very spring-like here. So a lot of times you don't want to turn your oven on. You just want to flip it. Don't make them too big either, because it makes them harder to flip. Like some of these are more ready than others. And be careful that you don't splatter while you flip. Like I think that first one down here, I put too much in it, so. See, those are perfectly golden brown. And the cheese is getting all melty. That one's falling apart on me. Yep. Just make small spoonfuls, because the larger the spoonful, the harder it is to flip. And you're going to have a big mess in your frying pan, and you're not going to have solid fritters. So the other ones are going to turn out a lot nicer than this one. But I also lined a pan with some paper towels, so you want to lay them on there to absorb some of the grease off of your fritter here, because they do soak up the oil. So yeah, I do a lot of stuff stovetop, and there's things that I like to cook, you know, in the pressure cooker or the air fryer, because I don't like heating up my oven when it's 70 or 80 degrees outside. And you know, living in our area, we don't have a spring, we go right into summer. So, and it's almost Easter here, so we're excited about that. And but first we have, St. Patrick's Day, so we will be doing some things for St. Patrick's Day. I'm just kind of briefing you on some of the things we have coming up while these are cooking. We have a tea room series that's coming up, and we are working on our meal delivery kit. That's coming up soon, so I hope you will stay tuned for the channel. And like I said, you know, Easter is coming up, and okay, that needs to cook a little longer on this side. That's a big onion that just came out of there. And Easter is one of my favorite holidays. It's one of the most important holidays for the Christian believer, because that is what Christ did for us, for our redemption from sin. So I'm very excited about Easter. And I think there we go. Just get these brown. And these two are going to be a little messy. These two are going to be perfect. So the key is small spoonfuls, not big heaping spoonfuls. You know, like a small pancake. When these get brown on this side, that one's perfect. So let me show you. This is what they should look like. So you don't want them any bigger than that, because they will make a mess in your frying pan. And you may need, depending on how many you're cooking, you may need to add more oil. So let's see, we might need to cook that side a little more. Alright, so I'm going to make some more about this size off the camera, and then I'll show you our baked one and our fritters when we return. So here you have it. We have our baked version, which took about 35 minutes. So usually it takes a little bit longer when we're cooking the double batch, but check it about 30 minutes, and if it comes out clean and it's nice and golden brown, it's ready. So this took about 35 minutes. And then we had our fried fritters with the same batter. So it's your choice. You know, I mentioned that you don't want to turn your oven on when it's hot outside. I kind of think I would rather do this than stand over the fire and cook these. But they're both delicious, so whatever you desire. If you give these a try, please let me know. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share it on social media with your friends. And if you haven't, please hit that subscribe button so you won't miss out on the next video. So until the next one, God bless.